First, I want to thank the grace of heaven and the virtues of the masters, the grand predecessor and predecessors, for this opportunity to talk about, well, I call it the significance of receiving Dao. Same thing. Okay, meaning of receiving Dao. Okay, so why is it important, right? Okay, so well, we all received the Dao, and maybe we don't really. Well, when we first received it, we don't understand what it's about, right? Maybe even after a while, we still don't understand. Okay, so actually, it's like in Buddhism, right? We talk about like the diamond, right? They use like the diamond, like you have the Diamond Sutra is referring to that Buddha nature, right? The Buddha nature. So that is like this hidden gem, right? We have this hidden truth within each of us. That's we don't realize it's hidden, right? It's hidden because we are all like, well, you can say we're ignorant. I mean, that's the basic thing, is that we don't realize that there's something so precious inside, right? So today, of course, we all like material things. So if I say, if you find out that, let's say your house is sitting on a gold mine or a diamond mine, you have treasure underneath your house, what are you going to do? You're going to dig it up, right? Right? So same thing. If we know that we have this hidden gem within us, right? We need to look for it, right? We should try to dig it out, right? So we want to discover the gem that's within us. Okay, there's Buddha nature. I mean, it's like a diamond. Okay. And so that's the first step, is receiving the Tao. So for most of us, we don't realize that we're pursuing all the things that are external, right? Wealth, material things, fame, power, all those things are external. But those are still not, you can say there's a price to all of those things. But the thing that's really priceless is within. Okay, so receiving this Tao blessing, yes, it cost us, a few dollars, a merit fee, right? But it's worth a lot more than that. Okay, all right. So receiving the Tao blessing, that's very important. And so people, to receive the Tao, of course, there are certain conditions, right? Not everyone receives the Tao. Not everyone is willing to receive the Tao. Not everyone can receive the Tao, depending on their karma, their affinity. The timing is probably not right. I would say, eventually, the Buddhists would say that everyone, all sentient beings, will eventually, I guess, receive the Tao and then return back to heaven. But it's a matter of timing, right? So it's so some people, they're just not ready. I guess they're not ready for it yet. But we're very blessed because we were willing, and we received the Tao, and we're learning more about it and learning how to cultivate. So we're on that path to enlightenment, right? All right, so that's the first step. And then, okay, so we realize that there is a gem, there's this precious gem within, so we need to extract it and realize its value, right? I mean, it's no good to say that, there's this, I have this diamond, but, it's like it's encased in this ore, right, in the rock. So that's like not as useful, right? So we need to be able to manifest it or show it, right? So it's like, I have this precious gem, but I keep it hidden in my safe, right? No one can look at it. so what good is that, right? So it's the same thing. When we receive the Tao, we want to try to understand what that gem is, and try to show it, right? So we need to, the way to do that is kind of to get rid of our bad temper, correct our faults and habits, okay, bad habits, right? Because those are the things that cover up, right? That's like part of our character, our personality. Those are the traits that kind of cover up that true self, that diamond, that beautiful gem within us. Okay, so obviously we need to start. This is starting from the inside, basically, how we change ourselves, transform ourselves. And we'll eventually realize that this Buddha nature is, this gem is it's naturally it will manifest itself or express itself naturally if we can get rid of all the other things. If we get rid of all the things that we shouldn't have, right? Then what's left is just that Buddha nature, and so it will be manifest. All right. Okay, and then but we also need to, so it's not just good enough to show, okay, I have this rock, which is a diamond, we need to cut and polish it, right? So to make it more valuable, right? Just like any diamond, you have to cut and polish it, so to show its true value and beauty, right? So the same thing, we have to cultivate. That's what cultivation is all about, right? We cultivate, ideally, we cultivate the way of the Bodhisattva or the Buddha, right? We want to, that's what we call the big boat, or no, was it? It's the Mahayana way. It's basically not just helping myself, right? For myself to become enlightened and leave this samsara, but to help guide other sentient beings to also leave this samsara to attain enlightenment as well, right? And so, in doing so, we manifest our bright wisdom. Using our bright wisdom, we can do all the right things, right? We'll follow the Buddha nature. We'll follow those principles, and so we transform ourselves, and then at the same time, transform. So part of the transforming ourselves is getting rid of bad temper, correcting our faults, habits, etc., and then also to inspire others to transform themselves as well, right? Because we don't just want to help ourselves, we want to help everyone, right? Because we are part of the greater whole, right? We are not individuals, we are actually all one, okay? But we don't realize that yet, all right? And then, of course, once you have that cut and polished gem, right, you sell it to the highest bidder, right? But actually, so can't do that with the Buddha nature, right? I mean, that's not, right? It cannot be sold, it's priceless, okay? So, obviously, we all sentient beings, every life is priceless, okay? So, because we have that Buddha nature can, allow us to become enlightened, become Buddhas, right? So all sentient beings. So Buddha, treats all sentient beings as equals, as potential future Buddhas, right? So that is something that, some people maybe they have a low self-esteem, or they don't. We have to, realize that we have this potential, right? It's already there. It's just that we have to realize it. We have to have that faith, right? Have that confidence, that faith, that yes, we are all Buddhas, or we can become Buddhas. And so that is like the first step for us to become Buddha, all right? So that's important. All right. So, this is kind of what, as part of the cultivation, right? These are the things that we try to, these are all kind of negative things, but of course, these are the things that we shouldn't have, so we should get rid of these things, right? So, likes and dislikes, everything that's part of the subject-object duality, or this dualistic world, right? We're living in the yin-yang world, positive, negative, good and bad. But really, the way of the Buddha, the way of saints, is to go beyond that, is to achieve oneness, okay? So, unity, or it's beyond that duality. Unfortunately, everything, from the moment we're born, right, we're subjected to this duality. And, because whether our parents are teaching us, the way of duality, and what we learn in school and society, everything is all dualistic. But ultimately, to find that one true self, that true Buddha nature, we have to find the oneness, the non-dualistic, the non-duality, okay? So that's part of, getting rid of these four images, right? Four images, the image of self, image of others, image of the life, and the personality, okay? So those things we think are real, but they're not real. They're changeable, and they don't last. And they're only good for this one life anyways, right? So, and then the three minds also is very important that we get rid of those. It's the attachment to this, I guess the idea of the time, well, past, present, and future. Okay, especially we don't want to dwell or abide in the various time frames, right? We dwell in the past, right, or dwell even in the present, or even on the future, because everything is subject to change, and everything can change. It depends on our actions, depends on our thoughts. Okay, so. And then, obviously, get rid of the three poisons, like here, greed, anger or hatred, rage, and what was the third poison? Ignorance. It's in here. Okay, yeah. And then the five, what is it? The five precepts or whatever, the basic precepts, right? No killing, no stealing, no lying, no craving, or they say lust, or envy, right? Okay. No, it's not envy. No, lying. Wait. 5 precepts.
No, alcohol.
The what?
Alcohol can intoxicate.
Oh, right. Oh, right. Intoxicants. Oh, yeah. Okay, I didn't put that here.
Lying.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. All right, that one's not in here. But yeah. So no, right. But that's really kind of ignorance too. But anyways, yeah. So all these things, ultimately, right? We have to get rid of desires, because desires are what lead to all these things. And attachments, okay, those are things, and passions, right? The emotions, right? We very strongly emotional. If we can't control, especially now, we have to be able to control our emotions, right? It's not to say that we have to be stoic, no emotion, but we need to control our emotions, right? And not let the emotions take over, control us, okay? Because that's when we start. There's crimes of passion, right? They say, right? Things like that. Right, so as we cultivate, right, we work on getting rid of these things, and ultimately it's that ego, that sense of self-identity that we get rid of. And what's left is, like I said, that diamond is in there, right? That's the bodhi self, the true bodhi. And so once we can get rid of all that, then naturally, then what we are is this bodhi. So there's nothing really to you can say there's beyond that initial cultivation, the practice to get to this point. Once we're at this point, then we're Buddha. Okay, we're like a Buddha or Bodhisattva. Okay, so then there's nothing really to learn, nothing really to cultivate at that point. I mean, we are just following the Buddha nature, right? Okay, so just like the sixth patriarch Huineng says, right? Everything is originally pure and flawless, right? Because he says this is his response to Sun Shu's poem, right? Says, there is no Bodhi tree, nor stand of mirror bright, since all is void, originally work in the dust of light, right? So originally, it's not the Buddha nature that gets corrupted or defiled, right? It's the Buddha nature is what gives us life, okay? And then it's you can say it's an enabler, but it's our human nature, right? Our human nature and because we have these 5 skandhas, right? 5 skandhas that we think are real. That's our how we see the world, how we interact with the world, and we think that's real, and that's what causes us to develop have emotions, have desires, and then have attachments. Okay, so but what the sixth patriarch is saying is that original that diamond is it's pure. Okay, there's nothing nothing that can taint it. Okay, so but we have to get rid of all the other stuff, right? Clean it off and everything. All right, so all right, okay, so now receiving the Tao. Okay, it was different in the past. All right, so when we talk about like in the red era, which so we're now transitioning to the white era, but in the past, so in the red era, the cultivation, right, or to receive the Tao, right, basically people had to be enlightened initially. Pretty much, they had to be pretty much enlightened. Okay, so it's just like if you read the Sixth Patriarch's Platform Sutra, there were Zen masters during his time who were basically almost enlightened, and you hear stories about them, whether they heard something or whatever, something that clicked, and then they become enlightened. And at that point, you can say those they achieved arhatship. Okay, become an arhat. An arhat is someone who's enlightened, but they're not bodhisattva. They basically they achieved for themselves. Okay, so far, so they've become, that's the lowest level of enlightenment, you could say, right? But for most of them, so for them to receive the Tao back then, yeah, it was difficult. I mean, they had to be enlightened first. All right, so and then so just like the patriarchs would test the disciples to see who was worthy, who was enlightened. Right, that's why that poem that was written. He was the fifth patriarch was testing his disciples to see if anyone was worthy to. Well, in that case, was to receive the mandate to become the next patriarch. But for receiving the Tao, it's similar back then. Okay. Plus, they also had to have merits and achievements, right? In other words, they had to have cultivated and achieved before they were able to receive the Tao. Okay, so they had to prove themselves again that they're worthy, right? So that's again very difficult task, right? And then, of course, you have to be in the right place at the right time. Back then, there was only one patriarch. Okay, now there may have been other masters, whether these other enlightened masters could actually transmit the Tao, three treasures to other people, we're not sure, but we know at least the patriarch can. But unfortunately, there's only one patriarch, okay, at any one time. Well, there might be a couple, sometimes I think even three, but anyways, it's very limited, okay, and so it's not like today we have transmitting masters everywhere. And we can receive the Tao. But back then, you had to be in the right place at the right time, and you had to be, be almost enlightened, and also have all those merits and achievements. So it's very difficult. Okay. And of course, it's only back then it was mostly to benefit themselves, to attain the individual attaining enlightenment, becoming an arhat. Okay. They weren't. Now, some of them, like the sixth patriarch, he taught some of those Zen masters to then told them after, I assume they received the Tao from him, that to go out and then to start teaching. Okay, so in that sense, they're probably going to go on the path of being a bodhisattva, right? Okay, so now today it's quite a lot different. Of course, we don't have to become enlightened. Most of us. Well, I would say none of us are truly enlightened in the sense that they were before, and we don't have, right? But we have, as long as we have the affinity and the faith, right? The affinity with the Buddhas, with God, the faith to accept, to be able to receive this Tao. Okay. That's all it takes. Well, that's not all it takes. The second thing is that we have to have a merit fee. Okay, so that kind of, besides the merit fee, that's kind of a token. It's really today, it's just a token of our sincerity. That for most people, sometimes we encounter people who, receiving the Tao say, oh yeah, it's great. And then we mention the merit fee, and then they say, oh, no, wait, they're not even willing to give $10 for, they're willing to spend $10, $20 to see a movie, but not to, receive a blessing. So I don't know, it's kind of odd. So that's where, people today, they're so, Buddha will say they're all kind of inverted. They have an inverted view of things, that they emphasize and place importance on the material things and enjoyment rather than what's really important. Okay. All right, so merit fee. Plus, we also need to make vows, right? So when we knelt in front of the altar, right, we made vows, actually, 10 vows. We, unfortunately, we never really explained those anymore, because I guess people were afraid that, I seem to... In the regular class, but yeah. Usually, actually, we're supposed to explain it when we explain the three treasures, too. We're supposed to talk about it. But... yeah, I mean, it's a sensitive issue for some, like if you don't explain it ahead of time, like before, like usually, if you're going to make vows, usually, you got to be sincere and all that. And people should know that they're going to make these vows. Although these vows are, I mean, they're not like extreme vows or anything. I mean, they're just saying, I'm not going to be a bad person. I'm not going to slander our predecessors, patriarchs, things like that. I'm just going to do my best to cultivate. Okay, so it's pretty simple, basic, straightforward. Okay, so the difference, of course, now is opposite, because you can say the timing during this white era, there are all these calamities, disasters happening, right? So we need to save people, and it would be, you know, to try to find people who are already well cultivated and have merits, you know, is very almost impossible. So people can receive the Tao first and then learn to cultivate, all right, practice. But that is very important, though. We still have to practice. Not like, oh, you got this, got the 3 treasures, and that's your free ticket to return to heaven. Yeah, well, it's not exactly. We have to cultivate. We need merits and virtues still. Okay, so that's why the cultivation, even though it comes after, it's still, we need to do it. All right, the Tao is available when calamities are abound. Okay, so because we're in this time of universal salvation, Tao is available to anyone who has, again, meets the conditions. You know, if they have the affinity, they have the faith, they're willing to pay the merit fee and make vows. Okay, so of course, some people, they do it for a purpose. I mean, they say, oh, you know, they have a difficulty, whether it's illness or whatever, and then they're seeking any kind of means to help them. And so that, yeah, it's kind of a selfish purpose. But sometimes, usually, yeah, I mean, I think in my experience, I see these people, they receive the Tao for that kind of reason, and they never show up again. But because I think they're looking for some instant cure, which it's not going to happen. Okay, so it just doesn't work that way. All right, so it's best to be, yeah, you might say that that's not truly sincere then. Okay, so so you know, the Tao, it's available everywhere pretty much. I mean, yes, although it's in most countries around the world, but obviously, like in the U.S., it's not in every city and town, you know, but at least it's spreading. All right. Okay, and then so another difference is, whereas before it only benefit the self, it didn't benefit our ancestors, but today it benefits our ancestors and descendants, right? 7 generations up, 9 generations down. That's because of that universal salvation of the 3 realms. Okay, so that only this time period that that's possible. You know, we talk about uplifting, right? Like our parents, if they've deceased and haven't received the Tao. Actually, yeah, I mean, obviously we want to do that as a sign, show our filial piety. But if that's not possible, eventually, if we cultivate ourselves well, we perform merits, and we achieve, you know, attain Tao, return to heaven, that our ancestors, they will also return to heaven. But that, I think that may be after, that's like, you know, after the white, or at the end of the white period or something. Okay, so that would be automatic as well. But it'll be, you know, later. I mean, if we want to kind of have them go to heaven sooner, faster, then, you know, we uplift them. Okay, all right. Okay, so why do we receive the Tao? Basically, transform ourselves and others. Okay, so again, we want to realize what the true meaning of life is, right? And once we understand the true meaning of life, then we change ourselves to achieve that meaning, okay? And then in the process, of course, we can transform others, right? So we had bad habit before, we had bad temper before, but then people around us, they see that we've changed. You know, we're a much nicer person, we're much, you know, friendly, more kind. Then that's a way to transform other people. Okay, and they'll see that, and they might ask, or we might say, hey, it's because of the Tao I'm cultivating. Then they might want to be interested too, right? Okay, we open up the wellspring of wisdom, right? That wisdom, the Buddha nature has that infinite wisdom. It's already there. It's just, I mean, wisdom is not learned. Okay, we don't learn it even from the scriptures, right? We don't learn the wisdom. Wisdom we already have. It's a question of whether we can tap into that wisdom. Okay, tapping into that wisdom, we have to really let go of our attachments, mental attachments. Okay, not just the physical attachments, but the mental attachments. We have to let go of. We have preconceived ideas. We have our notions of how things are. we have to let go of those things. If we can let go of all those things, liberate our mind, in other words, liberate our mind, then that wisdom will naturally come out. It's part of that wisdom is part of the awareness, okay? The awareness is not these physical awareness, but the awareness of the Buddha nature is like the sixth sense, okay? That awareness gives us wisdom, okay? And once we have wisdom, right, we can know to do the right things. We realize that, yes, because some people maybe they don't accept the principle of causality, right? If they can't accept that, then they're just going to continue doing what they like without regard to the consequences. But so if we have the wisdom to know, oh, okay, yeah, these things, they're true, right? We can understand, perceive the truth. Then we'll follow the principles so that we can, for example, pay off our karmic debts to avoid calamities, right? And that's really, that's one of the things of receiving the Tao. So obviously, if we don't receive the Tao, we can still kind of change our fate, our karmic fate, but it may be more difficult. Okay, so but once we receive the Tao, it would be easier to pay off our karmic debts to avoid these calamities. We have, the Buddha, our holy teacher, helping us in that regard. And then we can change our fate, of course. Okay, so just like, the senior transmitter Jin, right, he's, or all of us, I mean, we all, as soon as we're born, we have, you can say, a predestiny, okay? So it's already known to heaven when we're going to die or what's going to happen. But it can still be changed, all right? And so just like the senior transmitter Jin, he's supposed to die at 57, but he's now 94. So it's very possible, but we have to cultivate ourselves, right? Our virtues and our merits, all right? And of course, we benefit our ancestors and descendants. So it's like, when there's a sale on, right? 2 for the price of 1, right? Well, this is like, I don't know, 64,000 for the price of 1 or something. I don't know, whatever the number is, thousands for the price of 1. So it's even better, right? So who wants to pass up that on that kind of deal, right? So it's really it's a good thing. So it's not just doing it for ourselves, right? Because we are descended from our ancestors, and because of their virtues as well, and we should also try to repay some of help them out too, all right? Achieve inner peace and joy, once we can, we know where we're going with the Tao. I mean, once we receive the Tao, we know where we're going after we die, and we know that as long as we're cultivating, we have merits, everything will be. I'm not saying that life will be hunky-dory, but because there are always challenges. There are always going to be challenges depending on some of it's still due to karma. Okay, so we still don't know. We don't know what kind of karma we have, but at least we know that no matter what it is, if we are happy, we are willing to pay off our karmic debts. Right? We have to be grateful and appreciate. Because, face it, it's like, it's payback, right? So we have to put ourselves in the other person's shoes. I mean, maybe we did do something evil to them in the past, and so, how would we feel if we were the one on the receiving end of that? So, so we need to definitely be humble, right? Be repentful to pay back whatever it is. So, but anyways, we can then achieve inner peace and joy that way, as opposed to being constantly in a state of suffering of, why is this happening to me? We understand why it's happening. And the more we are willing to accept that things are happening, and there's a cause, there's a reason, then we can get on with it, okay, get over it. And then of course, we can also have that peace of mind knowing that we're affecting our ancestors. The more we cultivate, the more merits we have, we're helping them as well. Okay. And it's really the ultimate life insurance, right? People buy life insurance, but really those people, right? We buy life insurance is not for ourselves, right? It's for our offspring or descendants, our beneficiaries, right? It's not us, okay? But this is really the insurance for ourselves too, okay? So we know at least that we're not going to be stuck in that cycle of life and death and reincarnation and suffering, okay? So that's really one of the key points. And then because we can transcend the cycle of life and death, right? And ultimately to attain Buddhahood, nirvana, and oneness, okay? So, that is the ultimate goal, whether we're thinking about that as a goal. Maybe we're just thinking about, I don't want to suffer anymore. That's good. But ultimately, as we cultivate more and we become more enlightened, we'll realize that the goal, yes, is not obviously not to suffer, but it's that oneness, okay, to realize that we are all one. And once we realize that we're all one, then, of course, then we will take the path of Bodhisattva and Buddhahood to help all sentient beings to achieve that oneness as well, okay? So that is the ultimate goal, of course. And it's not to seek, any special powers. Buddhas, of course, you can say that they're very powerful. I mean, they have all sorts of abilities, but it's not for that purpose, okay? So ultimately, to find, that oneness is to find our true self, find our true nature, find our Buddha nature. Once we can find it and we realize it, then we are one, okay? And then, that will guide us in our everyday life, how we conduct ourselves, right? Okay, so that's, that's basically what I had today. But I don't know, is any questions? It's pretty straightforward, right? It's pretty straightforward, why we want to see Dao. And, today, unfortunately, it's a challenge. People who are, especially if they're atheists, it's difficult, all right, because they don't believe in the afterlife, they don't believe in anything beyond, okay, so to talk to them about that, it's very difficult. Those who are agnostic, it's a little bit better, they're not sure, so, we can get through. But it may be easier to talk to people who have a religious background because they know the concepts of God, heaven, all that. It's just that maybe some of the terms are different. The way that things are talked about are a little bit different. But again, this is all a matter of perspective, okay? We live in the yin-yang world, so there are multiple perspectives. Everything is relative, okay? They're all relative. Whatever religious teaching, they're all relative, okay? It's not the absolute truth. And so you can say they're all equally valid in that sense, all right? That they're all talking about that truth, that absolute truth from a different perspective, okay? And in a different way, an expedient means, okay, of talking about it. And so, for us, we want to get to we in terms of like introducing people to receive the Tao, sometimes we don't really have to say too much. If they trust us, right? So trust, that faith is very important, right? If they have that trust or faith in us, and they see that we're a good person, and we believe this thing is really good for them, and they'd be willing to do it. Receive the Tao, but it doesn't mean that they'll continue to cultivate that part. We still have to like encourage them and try to enlighten them, teach them that let them understand. Okay, so that's the second step. But yeah, so but sometimes those who are in these religious, they're very into their religion, then it can be difficult too. Those would be difficult as well. So it's kind of like the extremes, right? Atheists, and then the very religious, they're like the extremes, and it's very difficult to change their view of things.
Yeah. Religion per se not bad
Yeah.
in the sense that I'm generalizing, of course, because every religion has their own roots, but the general, there's a belief in God, afterlife, stuff like that. So they teach you, to fear God, to follow God, to not to do bad things, right? Kill, murder, stuff like that. Okay, rob. Where it reaches an extreme, or say a potential danger, is that they became very rigid in their beliefs. Rigid, say, oh, only my way is correct. Oh, only what this book says is the correct way. See, that's the danger. You understand? That's where it's not so much that the founders of those religions, Jesus, Muhammad, etc., whoever, that they say that. Because during those times, there's no things like, during Jesus' time, there's no thing as the Bible. During Muhammad's time, there was no Quran, right? It only came after, right? Those are just recorded. It's where people misunderstood, or misunderstanding generally, or more specific, people have, how can I say? I want to say biases, or extreme views, become extreme views, or extreme interpretations of those, scriptures or Bible, etc., whatever. And then that started, that begins the slippery slope where you go into extreme different beliefs, and that's where you have what? Different branches, right? Sects, right? S-E-C-T, different sects, right? Like in Islam, you have the Sunnis, the Shias, and then the Sufis, and a whole bunch of others. Right? Same thing with Christianity. You have first the Catholic, right? Catholicism. Then you have the Protestants. And then within Catholicism, you have Greek Orthodox, Eastern Orthodox, Russian Orthodox, etc., right? And then within Protestants, my God, you have like dozens of different branches. That's because people have different views. You understand? So so that's the slippery slope. And then people become very rigid. Say, oh, only my way, only this Bible is the correct way, right? Everybody else is infidels, right? So, and vice versa, So that's the danger, because, and that's not really the Tao, okay? Or the true original purpose of the religion, of the religion. You have to go beyond the words, okay? You have to go to its, let's say, its essence, its principle, its root, etc. And that's really the Tao. It's just that, because the Tao cannot be completely or satisfactorily described in words, or described perfectly in words. It's not like writing out a mathematical equation or whatever, okay? And so therefore, you have these different quote-unquote religions or teachings, you know what I'm saying? Okay, but all these teachings are all, you can say, another way of saying, are what we call expedient methods, expedient way of explaining the truth, you know what I'm trying to say? It's just in a slightly different manner. That's all. But it's all words. It's all words. So, but the essence is the same. So you have to go beyond the words, because like our Buddha nature, the truth, the principle, we cannot accurately or completely or satisfactorily describe using just words and just our intellectual thought. Understand? Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's why we have to go beyond it. Okay. That's why we study Buddhism. Okay. You have to really go beyond it. So that's why, unfortunately, most of us, throughout history, get stuck. Get stuck in the words, in the scripture. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. See.
Misinterpret.
Yeah. Right. I mean, it's basically right. So. Well, there's the image of the, the Buddha pointing to the moon, right, right, and to say that's the truth is there. That's the true nature. That's the Tao. That's the Buddha nature. But then people look at the finger, right? They say this is because that's the guide, right? That's like the forms that they can see, they're pointing at the truth, and they take that as the truth. So it's like the reflection of the moon in the water can you get the moon by grabbing the image in the water? No, you can't get it. So but unfortunately, religion has become like that, where because people, their view of they want, give me the truth, just give it to me, right? They want something, it's external, but it's not. So the Tao is not external, it's within us. So that truth is within us. We have to realize it ourselves. Okay, that's what it means to become enlightened, awakened, all right? To realize it, but it's not external. It has nothing to do with outside. The outside is just, these are things that can kind of point the way,
or give a hint.
Yeah, just like a hint.
Because the truth is not in a form, but the form comes from that truth,
Yeah,
or
right.
it's you can say, expression or manifestation of that essence or truth, whatever. Okay.
Right.
So we become stuck.
Yeah, we become on the forms.
That's the or an appearance or whatever, and that's the danger, or that's the pitfall. You can say that's the pitfall. Okay, so you have to go beyond it. That's why Buddha, Diamond Sutra, he also said, you have to discard even the Dharma, right? All that stuff. So because what he's trying to tell people is that it's the truth, or the enlightenment, if you will, nirvana, whatever you want to call it. It's not in the word, it's not in necessarily on a piece of paper. You know what I'm saying? So you have to, it's a higher level.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, you can say it's the human nature to look for that instant
yeah,
knowledge,
yeah,
or in something that they can get,
yeah.
right? Acquire, so that's why you have like these, I don't know, these secret societies, or the Knights Templar, or whatever. All these, they're looking for that special, or whatever, it's a chalice, or
Yeah.
something that's a relic
Yeah.
of a Jesus or something that has some powers, right? Well, see, that's all external stuff, and that's not where the truth is.
Yeah, and also
Right.
that's very, when you think about it, that's a fallacy too, because when you think about it, because what can be acquired can also be lost.
Yeah.
Right? Because you didn't have it before.
Yeah.
Now you got it. So you could also lose it. So therefore, that's already a hint in itself that tells you that, therefore, because that is not lasting, it's not permanent, so therefore it's not the true thing. Okay? So actually the truth is all within.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
all within ourselves. You don't have to go acquire it. You already have it. It's just that the reason why we don't know it is because we are so attached to this notion of, it's someplace out here, or something I have to get, or something I have to learn, or something I have to
Right.
read, or some answer I have to find, or some kind of relic, or something,
Right,
I don't
right.
know, whatever.
Yeah, or some kind of mantra, right? Some special.
So because then we're so attached to that notion, that's where we become blind, literally,
Right,
or
right.
lost, and therefore don't have it.
Right.
Therefore
Yeah.
we
So
get
I
it.
mean, in the Song of Enlightenment by Master was it Yongjia, right? Yongjia. He was during the Sixth Patriarch time, right? He's a Zen master.
Yeah.
Once he became enlightened, right? So this here says, right? Here it says, to him the reality of ignorance is, but it depends on the translation that you say, but basically within the ignorance there is that true nature, that Buddha nature is there. Okay, so we're all ignorant. We're all looking for that truth outside, but it's actually already within. It's within the midst of that ignorance. Okay, so that's why that's also another way of, they say, right, truth is ignorance, or Buddha nature is ignorance, and ignorance is, the Bodhi or whatever,
Or
right?
afflictions.
Or afflictions, yeah. So, I mean, it's one and the same. They're like two sides of the same coin. But, people are just so focused outside on things that are external, right? Looking for that truth, but it's not there. The truth is inside, right? And they all say that, if you want to look for the Buddha, you have to look no further than yourself, okay, for the Buddha. Because the Buddha is not an image, it's not some external form, we are all Buddha, okay? So it's all within. So everything is all inside, right? So that's, it basically, it's kind of a hard thing for, so that's why that wisdom, we need to have that wisdom. So if we are too attached to the material things, the external stuff, too much desires in that area, then it'll be very difficult to kind of understand this. And so, but even the sixth patriarch says, that his teaching, right, that he's talking about. Well, he's basically he's like the start of the sudden enlightenment school in Buddhism, but he's saying that basically his teaching basically he doesn't really try to teach those who are kind of have different views, okay? Basically because the problem is those people hearing this proper view, they might then say bad things about it if they don't agree with it. So that's the thing. So when we also when we introduce Tao to people, it's like we have to be a little bit careful. We don't get into arguments with those others because they have their set views, right? And then they're gonna start saying, wow, this Tao, this whatever this stuff is blasphemous. It's according to their thing, and so there's no need to get into that. So
yeah, that's why that Buddha also said, right, to Ananda, right?
Yeah.
Before parinirvana, say, oh, what about those people who do not believe your teaching?
Yeah.
Buddha just say, ignore them.
Yeah, let them go. Let them.
Yeah, just let them be.
Let them be. Don't try to convert them. Don't try to convert them.
Do not force. Do not go down the path of contention. So that means just like saying, right now the Christians and Islams, they hate each other because they contend. They say you're wrong. No, you're wrong. so that doesn't lead to anything good, right? And that's the problem. So it's like saying, it's like basically saying, ignore them. Just ignore them. So let them be. Do not force it upon them. You know what I'm saying? So that's why we also say, those people who have, who have the opportunity, right, or willingness or open-minded, you can call it, to say, oh yeah, I'll come and even though I know nothing or next to nothing, or even I may be Christian, Muslim, whatever, it doesn't matter, to come and say, oh, receive the blessing, is not because that they are all, literally, lost or ignorant or whatever, but also mainly because they have that karmic affinity, what we say, and you can say the karmic foundation, right, from previous lives, surge or cultivation that planted the seed then, and it came into fruition this lifetime. So them to have that opportunity, willingness, right? Now we have some people who come here and you try, multiple hours of trying to convince them or make that, and yet they don't believe. So then that just proves, proves that they do not have that karmic affinity or foundation to you say the blessing. Understand? Yeah. So that's what we say. The time is not right, or whatever. The time's not there, or they're not ready. Okay. So for those people, you can't force it on them. I mean, no matter what.
Right.
You can't say, hey, you must do this. You can't. So then let it be. Let it go. You did your best. And that's it. That there's no need to keep pursuing.
Yeah.
And the thing is, by doing that, they might have planted a seed that they will think about it, and when they're ready, they might just come back.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you want to right. We want to make sure that they get a good impression,
Yeah.
right? So we don't argue, right?
Yeah.
Just get a good impression and just plant that seed. That's it.
That's it.
And then that's in the future, maybe when the time is right, it might
Yeah.
trigger something. Yeah. Okay. All right. So if I had said anything wrong, I ask the Buddhas for forgiveness and your corrections. Thank you.